All right, man, peace. So NBA great and future Hall of Famer LeBron James has probably endured his most tumultuous season in regards to his team's performance in many years. That has not affected his outlook or his confidence in his team's ability to perform well once the playoffs come. He declares that he does not care what seed they're going to be allotted come playoff time, that he feels as if he can win on any team's home court, particularly in the Eastern Conference. And that clearly seems to convey that LeBron believes that they will be challenging whoever comes out of the Western Conference for the championship for the 8th straight season. Anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
I want to play well. I want us to continue to get better. I think we played well tonight. We was able to get the win. Some games you play well, you lose games. But listen, it doesn't matter if I'm a 6 seed, or a 3 seed, or a 2 seed, or 8 seed. If I come into your building for a game one, it'll be very challenging.
I agree with the brother. To be quite frank with you, he should have the level of confidence that he has. He has built up enough of a reputation. He has a big enough resume where he should believe that it does not matter what his seed is. And I think that he understands that they're not going to be any lower than a 3 or 4 seed come playoff time. They're most likely going to get home court in the playoffs. I do believe that Philadelphia, should they play them in the first round, is going to give them everything that they can handle, just from the standpoint that Cleveland does not match up well with Philadelphia. The lineup that gives them the best chance to win, when I say them, meaning the Cleveland Cavaliers, normally has LeBron James out on the floor with Larry Nance Jr. Well, Larry Nance Jr. cannot stop Joel Embiid to save his life. And the Philadelphia 76ers are probably the only team in the Eastern Conference that provide that type of matchup problem for the lineup that the Cleveland Cavaliers would prefer to have out there on the court.
All right, Mr. Smith, LeBron doesn't care about the seeding. But, Stephen A., is this the year where seeding does matter?
I think it is. I think it does, to some degree. I'm still going to pick Cleveland to come out of the East. They're my prohibitive favorite.
So am I. And yes, I do believe that they're the favorite. I would not call them the prohibitive favorite because I don't think that the Cleveland Cavaliers have the best roster necessarily from top to bottom right now. They do have the best player. Now, due to the fact that they have probably by far the best player in the Eastern Conference, that will probably take their team over the hump, especially in clutch situations where the refs are going to be looking to help LeBron out. But I do think that they're going to be involved in a couple of barn burner series, especially against Boston and Toronto. I don't think that Toronto's going to go out in 5 games this year or get swept again like they were last year, going out like a bunch of suckers. I'm hoping that Boston can beat Cleveland, but we'll see. I don't know if they're going to have enough firepower.
I like the young guys that they've acquired. I like their activity on a
And would it shock me if the Philadelphia 76ers beat Cleveland in the first round should they play? No, it would not.
defensive side of the floor or the ball, even though they've been struggling as of late. The bottom line is I believe in this team when it comes to the Eastern Conference, but that doesn't mean that home court does not matter, and here is why. Some of the issues that the Cleveland Cavaliers have had, the dysfunctionality that raked through this franchise for the first part of this, for the first half of the season, trying to implement new bodies now. Not to mention the fact that Kevin Love has been out and he's coming back, but he, confessed to some of his issues, which we all applaud him for. There's a lot of...
Stephen A. is just talking shit for television. I guarantee you off camera he's calling Kevin Love soft. That is a major issue if you're a professional athlete and you suffer from anxiety problems, because that is going to affect your performance on the court, on the field, and at the end of the day, sports is a bottom line forum. All it's about is, did you win or did you lose? Were you able to perform or not? People do not want to hear about your anxiety issues. There were players back in the day that had anxiety problems. I remember Chuck Knobloch, Dennis Rodman had anxiety issues to the point and to the level where he almost killed himself. Bill Russell, the great Bill Russell, had anxiety problems. He would throw up before every game, every single game, regular season, preseason, of course, playoffs. But he was able to moderate his issues. If you cannot moderate your problems, you're not going to be an asset to your team.
Of things to overcome. And when you take that into account, combined with the fact that you've lost your secondary weapon, which was a lethal weapon in Kyrie Irving, and you got to figure things out. With Toronto playing the way that they've played, with Boston playing the way that they've played, having home court advantage is a significant thing. I think it elevates their chances, not to the point where they should be the favorites over Cleveland, but it does put Cleveland in a position where you can't afford to play around with those two teams, because the hostility on the road, LeBron, no doubt, is prepared for it, and it's no big deal. But are the other guys ready? We don't know that about them as of yet.
I agree with that. This will certainly be LeBron's greatest achievement, at least in recent years. In the last 10 years, this will be his greatest achievement if he can lead this team to the finals. Because what he did in 2007, leading that team to the finals, is, to me, the greatest achievement of his entire career. Greater than any championship that he's ever won, including coming back from down 3-1 to Golden State, because he had a whole bunch of things happen in consecutive order for him to have the opportunity to defeat Golden State. In 2007, he took a squad of players that were marginal NBA players and was able to lead them to the finals.
And that's why it makes it interesting, because you just don't know what those other guys are going to be able to do, because it's foreign to them. A Rodney Hood, a Larry Nance Jr., a Jordan Clarkson. It is foreign to them, and it's foreign to a lesser degree to Kevin Love, because even though he's been there, he was there with Kyrie and with LeBron. Now it's without Kyrie, and it's just him and LeBron. So you got to look at it from that respect as well.
This year it would matter. Seeding would matter, but it doesn't. So what does that mean? It means if LeBron James and the Cavs could possibly wind up as the 1 or the 2 seed, then it would matter. If he only had to play either Boston or Toronto because of seeding, then seeding would matter. They ain't going to be the 1 or the 2 seed. They're going to be at best the 3 seed, so it doesn't really matter. He's going to have to play both those teams anyway, is my point. And that is what is significant. If he could avoid one, then fine. But if he can't, I'm not even talking about Philadelphia. I saw them match up well with the Cavs. I'm assuming Kevin Love comes back as most of himself. As something between the numbers he'll put up. Let's just do it like that.
Well, one must ask the question, saying that Kevin Love felt comfortable revealing his mental issues, does that mean that he'll believe that it will be okay for him to express his mental weakness in dire situations because he's already let everyone know that he suffers from this problem, as opposed to trying to grit his way through it as he may have done in the past? That's a question that I have to ask, and that I'm sure LeBron is asking himself. Like, is this guy writing these term papers about mental illness and anxiety disorders because he knows that he's not going to have what it takes to help me out in the clutch, and that when he fails, he'll be able to fall back on that? And LeBron would know, because he's the master of setting up excuses for himself.
The counting numbers, Stephen A., that you are very fond of citing, the points, the rebounds, the assists, those sorts of things. Kevin Love will not be what he was in Minnesota, but it'll also be more than he's been statistically in terms of the counting numbers with the Cavs so far. He'll be somewhere in between. He'll have all-star caliber-ish numbers, a top 20 or 25 type player by those kind of numbers. If that Kevin Love shows up, I probably also still like the Cavs as a favorite against either Boston or Toronto. But
to be quite honest with you, though, even though I mentioned and I'm dwelling on Kevin Love's admission pertaining to his anxiety disorder, his anxiety issues, I'm expecting him to have his best stretch as a Cavalier when he comes back, because I believe that this will be his first opportunity since he's been a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers to be the unassailed second option on that team. And LeBron will be looking for him to score, and score a lot.
But against Boston and Toronto, now we're talking about, are they going to get out of the East? I really don't know. The way I've seen this Cavs team play, even after the trade, I really don't know. The jury is out. Both those teams present a bigger obstacle than either one of them do. And because he'll only be at best the 3 seed, it doesn't matter.
Here's where I'm at with this. When you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, Max, right now, my mentality has always been, when it comes to the Eastern Conference, LeBron goes off, there's absolutely positively nothing they can do about it. But I think the misnomer or the miscalculation in judgment that we've made at times in the past is because you couldn't key on LeBron but so much because you had to have respect. Not just for the shot of Kevin Love, but the overall ability of a Kyrie Irving. Okay? With Kyrie being gone, LeBron could go off, and you could literally say as a team, go ahead and get yours. We putting everybody else on lockdown.
That is what is creating the atmosphere and the scenario for the Cavaliers to lose, Stephen A. Smith. That's why I've stated numerous times in many of my videos pertaining to a possibility of a lengthy Cleveland Cavaliers run in the playoffs that I'm picking them because they have LeBron James. But it would not shock me if they go out in any round of the playoffs, first, second, or third. It would not surprise me at all. As a matter of fact, if someone were to ask me what my prognostication is for a series between them and the Milwaukee Bucks, or them and especially the Philadelphia 76ers, I would call it 50-50. 50-50. But of course, you give the edge to the team with the best player, and that is LeBron James.
Down. And if that's your strategy, it might work. And that's what you got to think about when you think about Boston, and to a lesser degree, or to more of a degree, Toronto. You have to look at them from that perspective, because if they key on everybody else, if they say we're going to demoralize J.R. Smith, we're going to put him on lockdown, we're going to do the same to Kevin Love, we're going to shut all of this stuff down, what you going to do? LeBron James going to go out there and score 60 a night? That's not his mentality. He's dominant. He was absolutely sensational last year, but he had help. And let's see what happens now.
Let's keep in mind, even on the road, if you're talking about seeding in terms of home court, LeBron James in Game 7 against the 73-win team came through big time. So did Kyrie, yes, but largely, mainly, that was LeBron James carrying that team. Yeah.
No, sir. No. That was pretty much 50-50 LeBron James and Kyrie. As a matter of fact, Kyrie Irving had more of a contribution to that team winning a championship than Kobe Bryant did in any of his finals series with him and Shaq. Maybe I would give Kobe close to 50% in the 2002 finals against the Nets. But Kyrie Irving's performance against the Golden State Warriors in 2016 was more of a contribution when he was not the unmitigated alpha male on that team than Kobe Bryant was in his contributions for Shaquille O'Neal.
He had help, but he was the number one factor, and I thought he should have been the MVP even had they lost. But keep in mind, Stephen A.
Well, you would, because you're a LeBron James superfan. That's something that superfans say, that you could be the most valuable player even on a team that lost. And it's the NBA's fault because they set a very bad precedent when they gave the MVP award to Jerry West in the 1969 NBA Finals, even though they lost. They were not supposed to do that. You could not be the most valuable player in a series where your team loses. You could be the most impressive, you could be the most outstanding, but you can't be the most valuable because they could have lost without you. If they lost with you, you can't be the most valuable. But once again, that is an NBA problem because they allowed Jerry West to get that MVP in 1969, set a very bad precedent. So now many of LeBron James' super fans in the media are going to keep pushing for him to get an MVP because he's going to keep losing these finals. And they're going to keep pushing for him to get MVPs in the finals that he loses, especially if he were to lose a very competitive 7-game series and he were to average 35, 12, and 12 or something like that. It would not shock me if the NBA gave him an MVP in the finals that he lost one day.
That they put Kyrie and Kevin Love on lockdown the year before, and by they, I mean like the Fates, because neither one were in the finals. And LeBron, with nothing but J.R. Smith or Matthew, at the time, Matthew Dellavedova.
And it wasn't good enough.
That was the second best player, but he won 2 games from a Warriors team that was significantly better than this Celtics or Raptors team. LeBron and a cast that did not belong in the finals did win 2 games.
That 2015 Warriors team excelled in the regular season and the postseason. They did have their downs. They had some ups, of course, because they won a title, but they did have some downs as well. They were very inexperienced. They were very precocious. That series with them in Cleveland went 6 games. Game 2, they lost in overtime. That series could easily have been a 5-game series. And I'm sure someone else can say, well, that easily also could have been a 7-game series or even a victory for Cleveland because Golden State also won a game in overtime in Game 1. Point being is that I don't think that comparing any of these Eastern Conference teams today to that 2015 Warriors team is relevant.
That's not fair. That's not fair, because here's why. The Warriors were just learning how to win. That was their first time.
Agreed. They're very precocious. They were just learning how to win. They were making their way at that moment. And they had not even gotten past the second round with that incarnation of the Warriors team. They had not even gotten past the second round before they made it all the way to the finals that year.
First title. So it wasn't like they were this experienced championship juggernaut that they ultimately came to be 2 years later, the next 2 seasons. This was the first go-round. That was the Warriors' first trip to the NBA Finals. They were a completely different team than they won when they won 73 games. They were a completely different team than they were when they won last year with Kevin Durant. That first year, they were trying to figure out and learn how to win themselves.
But they looked like the best team in basketball, Stephen A.
Yes, they did, and they were. But there's a big difference between regular season and a postseason run. There are many teams that look like the best team in basketball in the regular season and were not able to win a championship. And they did have some very important moments where them getting over those particular stumbling blocks turned into important building blocks for that team.
Yeah, but heading into the finals, they look like the best team in basketball.
But wait a minute. But wait a minute. If you recall, everybody was waiting, because you were in LA at the time doing Afternoon Drive with our brother Marcellus Wiley. Everybody was aching for the Clippers to go up against the Warriors because they hated one another. They were heated rivals, and they were nipping and tucking at one another. What happened was the Clippers were up 3-2, collapsed in that Game 6 against Houston with James Harden on the bench.
Actually, Steve, they were up 3-1. They were up 3-1 and lost that series.
And Dwight Howard in a lineup with Corey Brewer and those boys, and they came back from a 19-point deficit and outscored the Clippers like 49-9 the rest of the way. So it was a collapse.
Well, you're describing what happened. You're describing what happened. What I'm saying is, by the time the
Warriors didn't look. Hold on, the Warriors didn't look. You didn't look at the Warriors and go like this. Oh, they looking like the best team in the world at that time. It was a toss-up as to who was going to win what.
No, I don't believe so, Stephen A. Smith. You're changing the narrative. When the Warriors went into the playoff that year, they were expected to win the championship. It's just that you did not know if they were quite as good as they had shown in the regular season. But people were waiting for them to play the Clippers, but it wasn't like, oh, this is going to be this titanic matchup. We don't know who's going to win. They had beat the Clippers pretty soundly in most of their matchups that season. I believe the Clippers beat them once out of 4 times in the regular season. And they had pretty much put a clown suit on the Clippers in numerous games after that during the regular season. That was the season where Steph had the series or the sequence where he dribbled all through the team, made it look like the Harlem Globetrotters, and then hit a 3. And then a game in LA, he went behind his back twice against Chris Paul, had Chris Paul look like he was looking like Neo from The Matrix.
Right. But I'm not saying they looked unbeatable, but the Warriors, all things considered, I believe they entered the finals the favorite. And the Warriors looked like the best team in basketball. As good as Toronto and the Celtics have looked at various times this season, no one's ever confused either one of them as the best team in basketball this year.
Agreed. Well, I will say that at one point very early on in the season, we did look at the Boston Celtics as a team that may not have been the best team in basketball, but maybe the best coached team in basketball, certainly having the best defense in basketball.
It's not quite the same. And LeBron took that Warriors team, won 2 games with Dellavedova as his second best player. With Kevin Love as his second best player, he should do better against lesser teams.
Kevin Love was
presumptuously, but please understand that he does not have Kyrie Irving.
out. Kyrie Irving came into the finals hobbled. I covered that series when they went their playoff run to the finals. It was suspect about Kyrie's health all along, to the point where even his dad was wondering whether or not he should play.
Yes, I remember that. Now that Stephen A. brings that up. Yes, I do remember the issue with his father wondering if Kyrie should be playing.
And he was playing through games, particularly against Atlanta and other teams, where they were saying, why is he out here and what have you? Because he was fighting that hard for, through his health issues. So the fact of the matter is that the Warriors, it wasn't that they were looked upon like this juggernaut. It was that other teams were hobbled, or other teams had their issues. It wasn't the same Warriors team. Can't go by that.
Better team, that Warriors team or either this Raptors or Celtics team?
It's actually close. It's close. That Warriors team was very good, but these Raptors and these Celtics are also very good. People have to remember that the Warriors up to that time came out of nowhere. People were shocked at how well they played in the regular season and how much Steve Kerr's presence and his offensive game plan caused them to escalate in regards to how well they executed on the basketball court. But I think if those Warriors teams were on the floor against this Boston Celtics team or this Toronto Raptors team, it would be very close. It'd be a 7-game series.
That Warriors team?
Yeah, or this Raptors or Celtics team. That Warriors team.
I think it's a debate.
So do I.
I think it's a debate. I don't think it's definitive that it was the Warriors.
To be continued, gentlemen. LeBron's been to 7 straight finals. Each of those times they were either the 1 or 2 seed. Obviously, that's not the case this year.
Well, we'll see what happens in the playoffs this year for Mr. LeBron, LeShannon James. I do believe that he's going to get his team back to the finals because he is the best player. Normally in the NBA, that's how that goes. The team with the best player gets back to the finals until they face a team that has better players. But would it shock me if they were to go out in any round? No, it would not. Because I think that there are many teams in the East that are better than the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers just happen to have the best player. And you never know what a transcendent player can do. I saw Michael Jordan in 1989 take the Chicago Bulls all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals against the bad boy Pistons. And all 3 rounds, Jordan was able to raise the level of play of the Chicago Bulls to where they were beating teams that were better than them. Because the Cleveland Cavaliers in 89 were better than the Chicago Bulls. The New York Knicks in 89 were better than the Chicago Bulls. The Pistons, of course, were better than the Bulls. And the Bulls were the only team in the playoffs that were able to hang losses on that Pistons team. I believe that the Pistons may have lost one other game in that whole finals run in the playoffs of 89. But I know they swept the Lakers in the finals that year. But the Bulls were the only team able to make a dent in that team. But anyway, peace.